Hello, I'm Patricia, a 34-year-old navigating the everyday challenges of work and motherhood. For most of my life, romance took a backseat, but as I entered my 30s, my parents grew increasingly concerned about my single status. That's when they introduced me to William. He seemed like the perfect match, devoted to his family, which aligned with my own values. We got married, and for a while, it felt like a real-life fairy tale. However, 8 months into our marriage, everything changed. One day, William called me multiple times, sounding utterly drained. When I finally reached him, he delivered devastating news. His father, Paul, had collapsed at home and was rushed to the hospital. Tragically, Paul passed away, leaving a significant void in our lives, especially for William's mother, who was now alone in her grief. William stepped up, dedicating his time to her, taking her out, and planning trips to help her cope. Then, I won a trip to Hawaii through a contest. Instead of viewing it as a chance for us to reconnect and heal, William seized the moment to manipulate me. He insisted that unless I let him and his mother go on the trip without me, he would threaten divorce. His mother appeared to be perfectly fine with this arrangement, while I felt sidelined and used. Determined not to be undermined, I decided to stand my ground. I wouldn't just accept their plans without a fight. This situation revealed an unexpected side of William, one willing to use emotional blackmail to get what he wanted. It was disheartening, but it also strengthened my resolve to confront the dynamics of our relationship and prioritize my own happiness. While he didn't completely neglect me, whenever our plans conflicted with his commitments to his mother, he always chose her. His typical responses were, "Sorry, Patricia, Mom needs me," or "We planned this with Mom a long time ago." I outwardly agreed, but inside, I simmered with frustration. Why was I always the one bending? Wasn't his mother being too demanding? Despite these issues, William's closeness to her was undeniable, and aside from this tension, our marriage seemed stable. I convinced myself that this was just the norm for some families. In the midst of it all, I found solace in crossword puzzles that offered prizes. It became my escape during the times William was occupied with his mom. Occasionally, I even won gift cards or meals, which were nice bonuses. Then one day, I struck gold. I won 2 tickets to Hawaii. I was ecstatic, double-checking the win multiple times before considering travel arrangements. Initially, I thought about inviting William but hesitated, knowing his tendency to include his mother in our plans. After some reflection, I decided the tickets would be a perfect gift for my parents. On my way home, I stopped by their house to share the exciting news. Bursting with joy, I exclaimed, "Mom, guess what? I won tickets to Hawaii." Her eyes lit up with surprise and happiness. "Wow, that's fantastic. You and William must be thrilled," she replied. I paused for a moment, then said, "Actually, I want you and Dad to have them," I said, watching as my mom's expression shifted from astonishment to warmth, clearly touched by my gesture. Her voice, filled with surprise and delight, asked, "Are you sure?" "Absolutely," I replied. "William travels enough as it is. I want you and Dad to enjoy this opportunity." My mom's face lit up with joy, but I noticed a flicker of concern on Dad's face. "What's wrong?" I asked, catching his worried expression. "Well, it's a busy time of year at the company. I'm not sure I can take time off right now," he explained apologetically. "That's unfortunate," I sighed, feeling a mix of disappointment and understanding. Then Dad brightened with a suggestion. "Why not take Amy instead? It was your prize originally, right? You should go and have some quality time together." Mom nodded enthusiastically, clearly excited by the idea. "That sounds wonderful." Feeling a renewed sense of excitement, I applied for leave the next day, and it was quickly approved. I called the airline to arrange for the tickets to be used by Amy and me. On my way home from work, I stopped by a bookstore to pick up a guidebook for Hawaii. It had been ages since Mom and I had traveled together, and I was genuinely looking forward to it. When I arrived home, expecting the house to be empty, I was surprised to find the lights on. I had assumed William was still out, but instead of his shoes, I saw a familiar pair of women's shoes by the entrance. Puzzled, I walked in to find Kelly emerging from the living room. "Patricia, do you know what time it is?" she scolded as soon as she saw me. "Oh, Kelly, I didn't realize you were here," I replied, taken aback by her tone. "It's not just about me being here. It's late and William will be back soon," she continued, her voice sharp with reproach. "I'm sorry. I'll start on dinner right away," I apologized, rushing toward the kitchen. But Kelly wasn't finished. She launched into a critique of my absence, making it clear she expected more from me in managing the household. Her words stung, reminding me of the tightening boundaries in my life that I was increasingly determined to push back against. With a heavy sigh, Kelly questioned my commitment as a daughter-in-law, attributing my perceived shortcomings to my job. According to her, my priorities should place home far ahead of work. She often used her spare key to drop in unannounced, especially since she lived close by. Kelly clung to outdated notions about a daughter-in-law's role, expecting me to serve William and his family without objection. Her persistent critiques made it harder for me to feel any warmth toward her. As I unpacked groceries and began preparing dinner, Kelly's voice pierced the air with sudden urgency. "Wait, what's this? Patricia, are you planning a trip to Hawaii?" She had stumbled upon the guidebook. I had just purchased a few things when I noticed Kelly rummaging through my belongings. "Why are you going through my things?" I asked, frustration creeping into my voice. "That's not the point. Why are you planning a trip to Hawaii?" she demanded sharply. "I won the trip in a contest and was planning to give it to my mom," I explained, trying to keep my cool. "I haven't heard anything about this. Why should I?" Kelly snapped back, her demeanor confrontational. Before our argument could escalate, William walked in. Kelly wasted no time informing him of her discovery, pointing at me with an accusatory finger. "Patricia is being thoughtless," she exclaimed. William turned to me, his expression stern. "What's going on here?" he demanded. "I won the trip and wanted to give it to my parents. Since Dad can't go, I thought Mom could go with me," I replied calmly, hoping to diffuse the tension. "Why didn't you discuss this with me first?" William asked, confusion and irritation in his tone. "It's my prize, William," I shot back, my frustration boiling over. "What's the big deal? You always travel with Kelly." "It's not the same. Mom and I only take trips within the country. We haven't traveled abroad in years," William countered, his voice rising. "How could you decide this without talking to me?" He slammed his hand on the table, cutting me off. "You're getting too bold for a daughter-in-law. Mom and I are going, and you're staying home." His words made me wince with their childishness. "Wait a minute, you've had enough of this trip," I said, trying to keep my composure. "If you're not happy about it, maybe we should talk about divorce." I couldn't believe I had just said that over something so trivial. It felt utterly ridiculous, but my anger flared. "I won this trip fair and square. I've already decided to give it to my mom. Can't you see the signs? For once, Mom wants to go. When does it end with you always putting Kelly first? You never consider how I feel," I exclaimed, frustration bubbling over. "I don't care how you feel. This trip is for me and Mom. You stay home and behave," William insisted coldly, his dismissive tone chilling my affection for him. It was clear that I ranked lower than Kelly in his priorities, and I couldn't keep dealing with this ridiculous dynamic. "Fine, do what you want and enjoy your trip. You should have listened in the first place," I replied calmly, trying to keep my composure. "Do what you want," William retorted dismissively, a far cry from the caring person I once knew. Meanwhile, Kelly looked smug and victorious, relishing the turn of events. Needing space, I resolved to leave the house while they were away on their trip. The distance would give me time to think and perhaps figure out how to navigate this deepening rift. I decided to let William and Kelly go ahead with their vacation plans. The next day, I called the airline to transfer the tickets to William and his mother. However, the conversation took an unexpected turn. The airline representative sounded concerned as they informed me, "I'm sorry, but once the participants are confirmed, we can't change them." "Is that so?" I asked, a wave of disappointment washing over me. "Yes, and this ticket requires the actual winner to be one of the travelers. So if it's your husband and mother-in-law, the ticket won't be valid," the operator explained. "So if I don't go, the ticket is useless," I clarified, seeking confirmation. "Exactly. Please check the documents we sent you. They mentioned this condition," they advised. After reviewing the documents, it became clear that only I, the winner, could use the ticket, and it couldn't be transferred. I decided not to tell William and Kelly right away. Instead, I made plans for them to travel at their own expense if they chose to do so. That evening, after returning from work, I casually brought up the Hawaii trip to gauge William's thoughts. "So, how about that trip?" I started. "Did you talk to the airline? Are Mom and I all set to go?" he asked eagerly, excitement evident in his voice. "I did call them," I said, handing over the winning documents along with the tickets. "Here are the documents and the tickets." "I only need the tickets," William replied dismissively, waving off the papers. "But there might be important details in there." especially since it's an international trip, I suggested, hinting at the necessity of understanding the ticket conditions. I don't think I need to. Mom and I are just excited about the trip. He brushed off my concerns, his focus solely on the upcoming vacation. As William skimmed over the importance of reading the fine print, I felt a mix of frustration and resignation. It was clear that he was overlooking crucial details that could affect the trip's feasibility. I've got it covered. We're efficient, unlike you, he retorted dismissively. Fine, whatever. I'll leave them here just in case, I replied, placing the documents on the table, knowing William might overlook the vital information they contained. As expected, on the day of their trip, after making sure William had left, I packed my bags and headed to my parents' house for a quiet stay. While unpacking, the anticipated call from William came through. As soon as I picked up, he burst out, "Hey, what's going on? They're saying the ticket can't be used." "That's right. If the winner doesn't go, the ticket is invalid," I explained calmly, trying to keep the conversation neutral. "What? Why didn't you tell me this earlier?" William demanded, confusion and frustration in his voice. "I did tell you, remember? I mentioned it might be a good idea to read the instructions," I reminded him, hoping he'd recall our earlier conversation. "You mean it was written in those documents you gave me?" William asked, frustration evident in his voice. "Exactly. It's your fault for not reading," I replied, maintaining my composure despite his growing agitation. "So how are we supposed to get to Hawaii?" he asked, his tone becoming more heated. "Well, the operator did mention that if the winner doesn't go, you'll have to pay the full price," I said matter-of-factly. William sounded frantic, and I could hear Kelly's voice in the background, signaling their shared distress. "William, what did Patricia say?" Kelly demanded. "Mommy, if Patricia doesn't go, we have to pay for the trip," William started to explain, his voice tinged with disbelief before handing the phone to Kelly. "Let me talk to her," she insisted, ready to take over the conversation, presumably to find a way out of their predicament. "I can't deal with this anymore," Kelly snapped sharply. I decided to let them sort it out themselves and hung up without another word. It wasn't long before William called back. "Hello," I answered, bracing myself for more drama. "What is it now?" "I'm busy," I said coldly, not in the mood for further complications. "It's not what you think. I tried to buy the tickets, but the credit card isn't working," he explained, sounding flustered. "Huh? I don't know anything about your card," I replied, genuinely puzzled. "It's not mine, it's your card," William clarified. "Oh, so you're saying you used my card without my permission?" I accused, my tone icy. "I just need to fix it now," he insisted. When I checked my wallet that morning, my card was missing. I had a hunch and immediately froze it. "I realize why you're having issues," I said, understanding dawning on me. "I knew you stole it," William retorted angrily. "Are you kidding me? I was planning to shop with that card abroad." I shot back, my frustration mounting. "You freaking witch," he snapped, his voice harsh and unrepentant about taking the trip or using my card without permission. Fed up with his selfish behavior, I coldly rebuked him. "What a jerk. Who are you calling a witch? After mocking others all the time, you should just go to hell." "What? Who are you talking to like that?" William asked, sounding offended and taken aback. "Honestly, calling out for mommy is creepy," I replied, highlighting the oddness of his dependency. This situation had escalated beyond simple travel plans and revealed deeper issues in our relationship. "If you love your mom so much, maybe you two should just stay together. I can't handle being married to a mama's boy. There's no point in us staying together," I declared, my voice heavy with exasperation. "Hey, calm down. If you keep this up, we'll end up getting a divorce," William threatened, his tone sharp. "Fine by me. I was thinking the same thing," I retorted, my mind made up. "I'm leaving the house and don't plan to come back. Enjoy your time abroad with your beloved mommy. Hope you both have a great trip," I added sarcastically before hanging up, feeling a mix of anger and relief. Furious, I ended the call and immediately blocked William and his mother on all my devices. Following my dad's advice, I went to a law firm to start the process of ending my marriage. As I reviewed our finances to divide our assets, I discovered our joint account was empty. William had withdrawn money multiple times, coinciding with his trips with his mom. It was clear he had used our savings for their travels and had also swiped my credit card without my permission. I demanded significant compensation, which left him owing money and being pursued by creditors. His once indulgent mother, who had always gotten what she wanted, now found herself in a strained relationship with William. They argued every time they met, a stark contrast to their previous closeness. It was ironic how things turned out, considering how spoiled he used to be. Meanwhile, I decided to stay with my parents for a while. The ordeal had caused them to worry, and I wanted to make it up to them by living with and taking care of them. Being away from the chaos of my marriage made me realize that what truly matters is having a loving, supportive family. Going through this divorce reaffirmed that belief, helping me rediscover what was truly important.